Time for the Documentary Award, sponsored by the Bertha Foundation. This award is for an outstanding documentary that deals with a story or an issue in a developing country. This year's nominees are...
Chameleon, I Steal Film.
The national police came here, the local, I channel. Hi. The moment we're doing it, almost in the energy.
It's very easy. My hat. Who has my cap? Mama, I've got him. Yes, I have. I'm in handcuffs with him right now. Yes, we are in handcuffs. That's exciting.
Elephant's Dream, Associate Directors, Limerick Films and Roast Beef Productions.
Article 15, débrouillez-vous. Donc chacun se débrouille quand il se réveille le matin pour se débrouiller pour les haricots de ses enfants. Ici, cet article, donc, c'est le de base de notre vie. Sans article 15, tu ne peux pas vivre. Je prends beaucoup de temps à réfléchir. Moi, j'aime être différent avec toutes les autres. Et non me lever en unité, très bien là, confortable, puissant.
Tell spring not to come this year, ponder.
یکی برای من گفتن قماندان صحبت ولای و اینا دستنگ وظیفه داریم برای 24 ساعت دیگه وقتی که رفتیم دوجا دیدیم وظیفه را رقم میساسی دیگه کردیم این وظیفه مثلا 24 ساعت بود وظیفه کشید در 45 روز
Here to present the award is Jamie Doran, Head of Programmes at Clover Films and Chair of this year's jury.
As anyone who knows me is well aware, I always play things safe. It's a genuine, in fact I'll play it even safer and let everyone know I'm having to use these damn things these days. It's something to do with age. It's a genuine honour to present this award tonight, sponsored as it is by the Bertha Foundation. I'm sure many of you know the work of the Foundation in the documentary world, including its tie-ups with BritDoc, IDFA, Sundance and so many others. But for me, it's the way that Bertha provides opportunities for filmmakers living under the most challenging circumstances in Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, Africa and beyond, to tell stories from their own countries that makes it stand out. Bertha and One World Media are a great combination. It was a privilege to be a member of such an impressive judging panel for the Feature Documentary Award, and the standard of entries was, as always, very, very strong. Now you can guess that I already know who the winner is, so I want to break the rules a little, and before opening the envelope, mention very briefly a film that didn't win. Quite simply, if you have not seen Elephant's Dream, then do so at the earliest opportunity. It is magnificent. But that brings me to the winner. I've spent much of the last 15 years working in Afghanistan, and in that time I have never come across a more emotional, gritty, authentic, or braver film than this. It marks a moment in history, and it marks a moment of shame for the West, as the Afghan army is finally abandoned by those who have claimed to be liberators all those years ago. It's an extraordinary piece of work, and the winner is, even before I open the envelope, Tell Spring Not to Come This Year.
absolutely thrilled for Mike and Saeed, the two directors of this film, and absolutely fantastic guys to work with. They're a total pleasure. This was a real labor of love for them. They put an enormous amount of their own money and time and energy into this film. It was quite difficult to get the money for the project. They were absolutely determined to get this story told, and I think they're just fantastic guys. They asked me to deliver a speech, a message tonight, just to say that the situation now in Helmand is infinitely worse than it was when they were making this film. The main character, you didn't actually see, but the main character in the film is now back in Sangin fighting, and he is convinced he's going to die there. The situation's really grave. Let's not forget about all the people who are still living through this war. Thank you.
Our penultimate award this evening is given to the International Journalist of the Year. This is for an established journalist or filmmaker who has made the most outstanding contribution to international journalism across the last 12 months. And the nominees are
Erika Solomon, Financial Times.
Erika Solomon is Middle East correspondent for the FT, based in Beirut. She led the groundbreaking ISIS Inc. series, which delves into the finances of the Islamic State. At just 30 years old, she writes with the authority and insight of the most seasoned correspondents.
On the outskirts of Al Omar oil field in eastern Syria, a line of trucks stretches for 6 kilometres. Some drivers wait for a month to fill up with crude. This is the land of ISIS. The trade in oil has been declared a prime target by the international military coalition fighting the group, and yet it goes on undisturbed. Oil is the black gold that funds the black flag of ISIS. It fuels its war machine, provides electricity, and gives the fanatical jihadis critical leverage against their neighbours. It's a situation that makes you laugh and cry, said one Syrian rebel commander in Aleppo, who buys diesel from ISIS areas even as his forces fight the group on the front lines. But we have no other choice, and we are a poor man's revolution. Is anyone else offering to give us fuel?
Gabriel Gatehouse, BBC Newsnight. Gabriel Gatehouse's reports combine incisive writing with a determination to get to where the big stories are happening. As a foreign correspondent for BBC Newsnight, his work has had a real impact in highlighting underreported stories around the world, from Yemen to Libya to Ukraine.
These men are from Sirte. They've managed to escape the harsh regime of Islamic State.
بنزين ياخذوا فيها من هنا مصرات الخبز ولا ياخذوا فيها من هنا مرتبات ما فيش مصارف ما فيش سبل الحياة ما فيش.
This man's brother was arrested on suspicion of being a spy. He was executed in the most horrific manner.
لكن بعد شافوه قالوا جابوه نزلوا لوطة ورمي بالرصاص بعدين صلبوه 3 أيام حتى الجثة ما عطوناش إلا ب3 يوم.
They show me a picture on a mobile phone. It's all over Facebook, they say.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The man's name was Milad. He was recently married.
Terrible picture.
He leaves behind an infant son.
Patrick Kingsley, The Guardian.
Patrick Kingsley is The Guardian's first ever migration correspondent. His post has allowed him to cover the refugee crisis in more depth than any other journalist. Reporting from 20 countries along the migrant trail, he has provided a broad picture of who is travelling to Europe, why they are coming, and how they are getting there.
All must brave the desert, and not everyone makes it. At every stage, migrants are at the mercy of the smugglers. Kidnappings for ransom or for slave labour are common. There are stories of smugglers abandoning their clients in the dunes and of dozens dying of thirst. We suffered many things in the desert, says a 21-year-old Darfurian, who made it to the Libyan coast only to be arrested as an illegal immigrant. Some people pay to reach the Libyan coast in one single transaction. Others move in stages. Those with money can leave Libyan shores within days, but many have to stay to pay off their debts to smugglers earlier in the route or to save up for the onwards maritime voyage. What you pay depends on who you are.
To present this award, please welcome to the stage John Simpson, World Affairs Editor at BBC News.
We are living, as we know, in difficult times, very, very difficult times, when some of the uncertainties seem to be fading, seem to be crumbling under our feet. And it's our job as journalists, as filmmakers, as writers, as photographers, as cameramen, to register the changes and to stand up for truth. I remember years ago, during the Bosnian War, coming back and saying to a very close friend of mine, Tira Schubart, a distinguished filmmaker who's I think received awards here and certainly been present here, nominated here various times. I remember complaining about how dangerous it was now for journalists to cover these things. And she got quite annoyed with me for saying that. And she said, whoever suggested that journalism was supposed to be a safe profession? And I took a lot of comfort from that. It isn't meant to be a safe profession, and if you don't like the difficulties, then you should find another job. It is our job to do these things, and the three people that we saw extracts from today are people that all three of them I've admired for months, in one case for several years now, and one of them, Gabriel Gatehouse, is a personal friend of mine. I wasn't on the jury, but whichever of them is in the envelope, whose names are in the envelope, is going to be thoroughly worth it. And that name is Erika Solomon.
I'm not Erika Solomon. Erika's been travelling a huge amount in recent months, writing a lot of other very brilliant stories, and sadly she can't be here tonight. But I know some of the things that she would probably like me to say, and there are one or two things I'd like to say about her. First, the latter. You'll hear a lot about Erika in the years to come. She is 30. She is an outstanding journalist. She writes beautifully, but also she finds out important stuff. And I know from experience as a correspondent, it's one thing to write about places. It's an altogether different matter to actually unearth really important material and then write it up. And that's what she did with this ISIS investigation. She wrote some of the most important journalism about how ISIS operates. We all know that it's a very barbaric and intense organization, but few of us knew before we read her reports quite how it operated. But she would also like me to thank a number of colleagues, because as we all know, journalism is often a team game, and if you work with your colleagues, you can produce far more compelling material. One of them is in the audience tonight, Ben Hall, the World News Editor of the Financial Times. I'd also like to mention Rula Khalaf, now the Deputy Editor, and there's a whole host of other people who've contributed to her work. Thank you very much.